All right, so it's a cool day here in San Francisco. I am back at a familiar spot. Gonna try different composition though today, and I'm gonna be using a limited palette so that I can hopefully achieve color harmony in this painting. I do have extra colors on my palette from a previous painting, but I'm mostly gonna be using cadmium yellow medium, titanium white, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue. And I'm going to be painting on a 20 by 20 inch stretched canvas. And here is the view I'm working with. I'm planning on moving Alcatraz a little bit to the right. I may also move the distant mountain a little bit to the right too, so that it's not peaking right at the top of this tree. So as usual, I'm using the scene as inspiration, but I'm going to make some changes. All right, so I'm sketching with burnt sienna, and I've thinned the burnt sienna using odorless mineral spirits. Doing my usual thing here, just mapping out the big shapes. There are some distant mountains here, and then some mountains even further in the distance. This is Alcatraz, and Alcatraz is actually further to the left, but I've decided to move it so that the buildings are visible. So I've just moved it slightly to the right. There are a couple of palm trees in the foreground. They're kind of overlapping each other. We've got two trunks right here. And then obviously this is the street going up towards the bay. Some people wonder why I always sketch with burnt sienna. And the main reason is that I like to have little bits of orange showing through in the finished painting. Another nice thing about sketching in burnt sienna is that it doesn't corrupt the colors that you put on top of it, or it mixes nicely with the colors. Right, so there is the composition. I do like the arrangement of shapes. I'm viewing this grouping of buildings as one shape, the street as one shape, trees are one shape, and then the distant land and Alcatraz is kind of all one shape as well, and the water's a shape and the sky's a shape. The next thing is going to be establishing some darks. For my dark mixture, I am using ultramarine blue, some alizarin crimson, and a touch of burnt sienna. And I've also thinned this mix with odorless mineral spirits. There's sort of a shadow cast on this tree. I don't know if I'll keep it, but I'm going to start out with it. I try to work quickly so that spontaneous things happen. When working spontaneously, I keep the things that I like and then just eliminate the things that don't work. This is the time of year that I like to get out and play around and experiment. As you guys know, I just had a show at Studio Gallery. The show is now over, the pressure is off, so I can just play and experiment. There's some shadows on this side of the street here. And I am gonna change the shape of these shadows a little bit. Maybe I'll have this one come out a little bit further, like this. All right, for the water, I've got a blue-green mixture here that I mixed using ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, titanium white, and a bit of alizarin crimson. It's surprising how much red you'll find in seawater or any sort of greenish color. There's always red in it. And I feel like red is maybe the hardest color to determine in a mix. At least it is for me. It's easy for me to see if a mix needs more yellow or if it needs more blue, but sometimes the color I'm looking for when making a mix, the color that's eluding me, is red. I usually paint dark to light, but sometimes when I'm blocking in, I shift it up a bit. So today I am painting in the sky early, and I'm going to key these hills to the sky. There are a lot of different ways to approach a painting, but I do think if you're a beginning painter, the best way to go is to start with the darks. Establish your darks, which will establish a feeling of light in the painting. and then gradually work towards your lights. I want to lighten the sky, so I've got some more titanium white here, and I'm just going to apply this titanium white directly to the sky to lighten it up. I will be coming back over the sky with thicker paint, but for now I'm just approximating colors and values. Alright, for the distant mountains I'm going with a pinkish brown color, and I don't even know how I mixed this color, to be honest with you. I just kind of mixed into some existing piles of paint that I had on my palette, but I do find that mixing red into the distant hills is another way to push them back. The value of the hills is rather dark, but I do still want it to recede. I may have to adjust the values and the color a bit, but often using a reddish or purple color will push the mountains back. These mountains here have got quite a bit more blue in them. All right, so I've got a mix of ultramarine blue and titanium white, and I'm going to use this mix for these distant mountains. I'm using a number 8 natural bristle flat. Okay, so already there's a sense of depth there. That's good. I do think that I might need to lighten up this mountain here in the foreground. All right, I'm losing the light on these trees, so I need to work quickly to get them established. People often ask if I take photographs so I can use them as reference when the light changes. I don't do that. Most of the time I can remember what the scene looked like. And as I've mentioned before, I'm often changing things anyway, so I'm just using the scene as inspiration, and if things change, it's not really a problem. All right, so there's some trees lining the street, and I'm using the same green for these trees. I will be altering the green, but for now, it's close enough, and there are trees on this side of the street as well. Trees are often much darker than we think they are. In the past, I would always paint my trees too light in value. So I try to keep the dark portion of the trees at a mid-tone or darker. And there's a group of trees over here as well. I added a bit of titanium white to the green mixture for the greenery that's out on Alcatraz. And I'm squinting at the scene to reduce it to simple shapes. Okay, for the street, I've mixed up a warm gray here. I decided to wipe out the shadows and kind of start over. I will be adjusting the color and value of the street as well. And the sidewalk is sort of the same color. Okay, for the pier, I've got an even warmer gray. And there's a bit of water in here, but the water in here is a slightly different color, maybe just a bit more green. And I forgot to do this part here. This is also the street color, kind of a bluish gray. Out here we've got a group of buildings, and most of them are very light in value. And there are little bits of saturation within this group here, but for now I'm just going to block it in with this kind of warm gray. A lot of warm grays going on today, which is typical for a cityscape. And actually I want to keep that kind of orange. There's like a terracotta roof right there. I want to leave that unpainted. And there's some light on this side as well. One of the challenges painting this time of year is that the light changes so quickly. It feels like the day is over before you know it. I'm not sure what that was. Okay, there's some earth tones out on the island here. So I will block those in. And then the building on Alcatraz is kind of a light color. There's also another building right here. All right, so I've got some titanium white with a touch of cadmium yellow medium, and I grade it down just using some gray from my palette. All right, so I've switched over to some smaller brushes and thicker paint. I'm not using any medium, and I'm not thinning the paint at all, actually. I'm just trying to refine some of the shapes and colors. All right, so here is what I finished up with. This painting took about 2 hours to complete. It was finished on site. I am considering a few minor touch-ups, but I will live with the painting for a while before making any changes. This painting was painted without medium. For the early stages of the painting, I just used mineral spirits to thin the paint so that I could block in quickly, and then I switched over to paint straight out of the tube. As far as thickness goes, no thinning at all. So after the block-in was done, I came in with that thicker paint and started refining the colors and values, and then added a little bit of detail towards the end. I added some markings on the street here and some windows in the buildings. It's interesting how you can paint a really loose painting and then you put a few details into it and all of a sudden it looks like buildings and a street. But I don't like to put too much detail in, and this canvas is a medium tooth canvas, kind of thick and heavy, and so it's difficult to put detail in it anyway. It doesn't really work. So, you know, as usual, I was trying to keep the detail to a minimum, focus on big shapes, and hope for the best. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It's a Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated, so check it out. Other than that, stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next video.